and he just could not miss. It was rough.
Yeah, we've had one of those nights too. Did he tell us? Did he tell you the other night we were up?
Are we live now?
I don't know. Are we?
Yeah, I don't see it. Not yet. Maybe
I see it.
Refreshing. Yeah, there's an ad.
Yes, there's an ad. So it looks like we have gone.
So it's working. All right. So apparently now, instead of using a regular YouTube ingest server, I have to use HLS ingest server. Okay. Thank you, YouTube, for whatever reason. So welcome to another episode of 4GQ TV, as that's what we're now calling it. We have a very, very special guest tonight who I haven't podcasted with since probably the time that he was E3 and was the only man ever at E3 to get a million gamer score. Ever at E3.
I actually have that in my Twitter bio.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, it's true.
I wasn't stalking or anything, Rand. Don't worry. So, yeah, Rand Al Thor 19. The man with the million. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, clowns? How you doing, bud? You know, me and you used to podcast a lot back in the day. Many different shows. So it's nice to be back on Four Guys with Quarters. Although I guess you kind of rebranded it a little bit, Four Guys TV or whatever, which is still cool. Yeah, we have a lot here to talk about, right? You have a bunch of topics, I would imagine, and I'm just here to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So
nice. Can we talk about that one time I came up with that great nickname for you, Randall Chicago or Randall Capone? Remember those days?
It was Randall. I preferred Randall Capone.
Did you? Okay.
You know, Randall Chicago. But Randall Capone's pretty cool because it makes me sound way, way cooler than I actually am. You know, like picturing me with the Tommy gun in my arm. You know, some nice threads, mobster threads. But yeah, I am from Chicago. I do like calzones, and as I know you do.
Yes.
Calzones are pretty tasty. I'm not a fan of deep dish pizza, though. Like, I don't actually like Chicago-style pizza.
So you don't like it?
It's not called deep dish. I heard it's called a casserole.
Yeah, in Chicago, you got to eat deep dish with a fork and a knife instead of just, like, your hands. I don't like it. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I don't represent Chicago to the fullest effect because of it. But yeah, I don't like deep dish, and I am a White Sox fan. Screw the Cubs. So
nice.
Controversial.
You know, Rand, real quick, I just thought of the perfect future avatar for you that if you had a t-shirt of it, I would buy it and wear it with pride. So Rand Al Capone with your Rand Al tomato face, a fedora and a Tommy gun in your hands, and underneath it, Rand Al Capone.
Here we go with the whole tomato thing, huh? It's never gonna die down.
It's Jez's fault, I think, right?
It is Jez. It's 100% Jez's fault. He literally made that up on the podcast, and he keeps on referring to it. And then he tweets about it to get people like even more behind the idea. It's all Jez's fault. I blame him for everything. I blame him for everything. Maybe you know what? Maybe I should just do the Xbox 2, rename it Xbox One, and just do it myself.
Xbox One. I think a lot of people are trying to forget that generation.
Or maybe Xbox 3, and just get somebody else besides Jez to come on there. You know, or replace Jez and get two new people. You know,
I'm free, Rand. Just so you know.
You know,
yeah, you and your new gamer pick thing. What do they call that?
A GIF.
The GIF. Yeah, but it's not what they call it on on Twitter. Like your avatar profile.
Right.
Picture,
the avatar.
Yeah. Avatar profile picture. It's good though. It looks nice.
Thank you.
It does
so this happened actually when me and my wife were playing It Takes Two. There's the garden level, right? And there's a part where you become a tomato, and immediately my first thought was Randall Tomato. So it is catching on. I felt like I was playing as you in that moment. So
yeah,
you can have Jez to thank for that.
You know what? I actually beat that game too, and me and my buddy had a big laugh because I was also the dude.
And I
became a tomato. I'm like, oh my god, I'm actually a tomato. This is too much. This is way too much.
It was meant to be.
Awesome.
Yes, immersive. It was meant to be.
I'll never forget it now. Every time I see any tomato on any pizza box or anything, I just think of that the thing Jez did. Oh man. But let's go ahead and move past the tomato for now. It might come up later, and introduce the panel for tonight. So we have PK Entertainment, and I can never do his slogan because it's always full of energy.
So what's happening? This is the most electrifying man in these YouTube channels out here. And welcome the guest, Thor. Long time. Known this man a while, even though he don't remember me. Last time we spoke, I think it was we was playing with K Mega in some game. I don't remember, but it was a while ago. But definitely glad to have you on here, man. First time podcasting with you, even though we played some games in the past. But hopefully you have a good time, and thanks for coming, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the amazing Fun Speculation, aka Mav, who does the Xbox Ultimate podcast and Fun Pop podcast. What's going on?
Not much, dude. Excited to have my brother from another Pong here hopped in with us today, as well as fellow I think official 4 guy or 4G if you want to. Can I call people 4 guys anymore because we're 4GQ TV? So he's a 4G, I guess.
A 4G connect.
Yeah, you need to upgrade to 5G.
Yeah.
Upgrade to 5G.
I got 3-bit here as well, and dude, being able to sit here with Rand is awesome. I've been listening for a while now. Massively talented podcaster, and just somebody that's a positive guy in the community. So it's fun to sit here and be able to bounce some stuff back off of all of you guys. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Then we have the man who his camera's off because he's probably smiling and he knows something. That's how you know he knows.
3-bit knows.
3-bit knows. I think 3-bit is his own insider. I think he knows more of what's going on than the industry half the time.
He just can't show you what he's working on. That's what it is. He's probably working on something top secret on camera right now. There's some kind of sketch. Yeah.
Maybe did he find a new pony?
It could be.
Could be that. So 3-bit man. Oh, did we scare him away? He got kicked off the pony.
Yeah, he just left.
He got kicked off the pony.
I think
I'm
he's
here.
trying to turn his
I'm here. I
camera on.
gotta take care of the dogs. Otherwise, all you're gonna do is hear dogs. I'll be right back.
All right, no problem. And then we have Pong with his dogs, and he'll be right back. So while we're waiting for 3-bit to possibly come back on with his camera, there's a story I got to tell you, Rand. That so every now and then, when Phil's parties are open, I hop in every now and then, and PK accidentally joined me in one of the parties, and he didn't realize who was in the party, so he's just talking like he's like talking to his best bros, like, yo dude, what's up, all that kind of gamer talk, street talk, and all that. So for 10 minutes back and forth he was talking, and it was Phil responding to him, and PK had no idea that he was talking to Phil. So then he looks at the party chat, he's, oh my god, it's Phil Spencer, and he starts freaking out.
Come on, relax. It wasn't like that. But yeah, it was a surprise.
Yeah, you definitely were freaking out.
You trying to get me out here like I was fanning out? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, like a Sailor Moon fan.
Sailor Moon's big time, man.
Is any word from 3-bit? Did we lose him? Oh, he's coming back. Okay, in the chat, coming back.
Yeah, what's up, Pong?
How's your dogs?
Few dogs?
Yeah.
Well, the wife just got home, so the dogs are going freaking insane. So one busted through the door and was up there helping the other one bark and get all excited. So I had to get that under control so you guys couldn't hear it. So it happens.
Well, I'm back.
There's 3-bit.
Yeah, there's 3-bit. You got kicked off that pony again, huh?
As soon as you mentioned 5G internet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, there's electrician at my house, and he just cut the power.
That's great. Must know what he's doing.
So yeah, but hello guys. My name is 3-Bit. Glad to see you, Randall. We have good topics here today, so let's do it.
Brandon, is your,
that was my intro.
you still there?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course I'm still here. Where would I go? Where would I be? Where else would I be Thursday at 5:55 p.m. Central regular time? What is it? It's not no longer CST, right? It's CDT.
Yeah, it's something
right?
like
Standard
that.
time or daylight savings time or whatever.
CDT, yeah.
I just use ST all the time because
So are we in standard time or are we in daylight time?
Daylight time.
Daylight.
So okay, so it's when it goes, the clocks go backwards, that's regular time. Okay, and
Correct.
they went forward, so it's okay.
Yeah. Daylight time.
So confusing.
Worthless, anyways.
Unless you live in certain places like Arizona,
like Arizona.
where they don't count the time, which is weird.
I think they still count time.
I mean,
Well,
no,
just ignore it.
Are you sure?
the city never closes, so they don't know time. Time is relevant.
Yeah,
Right.
They just freeze.
So, Rand, there's a big show coming up in June. It's gonna be digital, I think, right? E3 this year.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
And Pong has his camera off probably for a reason. He probably knows something. To be honest with you, he knows everything. If he's smiling, he knows something. But Rand, Jez calls you your own insider,
Which I'm not. I will push back on those claims every single time.
Are you excited for this E3 coming up? Are you excited for Xbox being there? You think Xbox is going to come out with some big show and, it's going to be like fantastic and everybody's going to go in awe and bow down?
Bow down, like get down on one, like, yes, we were wrong, Xbox Phil. You're totally right. Of course, I'm always excited to see shows, like whether they're PlayStation, do state of plays or their stuff. Same thing with Xbox. Now, I'm not excited for Nintendo Directs, but that's just me. I guess it all really depends. I was excited for last year's, and I was a little bit more disappointed with the outcome. Like, I wanted Microsoft to give us a roadmap, which they did, but a lot of the trailers were really too short and really too much CGI. And I think Microsoft heard the feedback around that. So I think this year they're going to focus a lot more on titles coming sooner rather than later. And we'll get more gameplay demonstrations or more trailers that at least feature gameplay kind of spliced together. So I'm expecting obviously a big demo again of Halo Infinite, maybe showcasing side by side what it looked like versus what it is now, the year delay, how much it improved. I don't know if they'll reveal the multiplayer at E3, although it will get revealed at some point because there's going to be fighting for it. And it's interesting because there's going to be two shows, but all on the same day. So you have the Xbox show followed immediately by the Bethesda show. So you're probably looking at least a minimum of 2 hours. If you just kind of say, okay, an hour for Xbox and an hour for Bethesda, you got 2 hours. Maybe it's an hour 15 for both. So you're looking at like 2.5 hours of just Xbox goodness of like, okay, these are the games that we're going to be playing, for the end of this year, early, all of 2022 and some in 2023. So then you'd look at Bethesda. I'd expect to get a deep dive on Starfield, the announcement of Wolfenstein 3, Arcane Austin's next game. I'm sure that will all be announced, and who knows what other surprises Bethesda will have. The big one for me is when Starfield launching. I've been riding the train that it's launching this holiday. I've been optimistic about it, right? Like Microsoft was going to try to get out Forza Horizon 5, Starfield, and Halo this holiday. And, sometimes maybe my optimism bites me in the ass because there certainly could be a possibility that Starfield gets delayed to next year. COVID is really impacting game development, especially at Microsoft, because they have a very, very strict work from home policy. And video game development's really tough working from home. So it's certainly possible Starfield gets bumped until, maybe March of next year, maybe the end of the year. But I'm just honestly excited to see, okay, we know last year kind of showed the roadmap. We know Perfect Dark's coming. We know Avowed's coming. We know Everwild is, and we know all the other games from first party. Now you add the Bethesda stuff, and even there's some things that are secret that Jez Corden and myself have been teasing on Xbox 2, and he wrote an article about the Xbox Global Partnership deals that Xbox has with some pretty big second party independent developers. Maybe they reveal one of those games, and then you add Kojima on top of it with a maybe they have that deal signed before this all happens, and they can show the world that, hey, if you're a Kojima fan, the platform for you is Xbox. Because right now, like, nobody can really buy in these consoles. Like, they are sold out within minutes. They're really having a tough time keeping up with demand, shortages. So people haven't really fully made that conscious choice of where they want to play their games. And Microsoft can really do themselves a big favor by having a great E3, showing some great content, more Game Pass deals. There's all these rumors regarding Game Pass, and convincing people that, hey, maybe you need to buy an Xbox Series X or S. If you don't want to, there's PC, there's mobile, where you can subscribe to Game Pass, because we're going to have a ton of games coming over the next, 5-6 years that you won't want to miss out on. So yeah, I'm incredibly excited about what Microsoft is going to show, and I hopefully they knock it out of the park, and we can all get on the podcast the next day making videos talking about, damn, Phil Spencer and Xbox really nailed it this time. Like the meme, the Xbox has no games is officially dead. Game Pass is the best deal in gaming. Look at all these games coming day one to the service. You feel good about maybe recommending the system and the ecosystem to friends and families when they ask you about what to get and stuff like that. So yeah, it's exciting time, and I it's only like 2 months away, so it's not that far. We don't got to wait that long, but I'm super pumped.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm pretty excited too. I really hope that they show us something with a lot of gusto. You know what I mean? Like, I just want Xbox to come out there and just be like, we got this year. We got this. Phil's Xbox is finally here. Phil's vision for the team, and we're seeing awesome stuff come up here, and we're seeing, like, there's just the services alone in general, like Game Pass has become huge. xCloud is a lot of fun. I know that right now everybody, depending on their cell phone connection or connections at home, might have a little bit of issue here and there, but I gotta be honest with you guys. Like, every night when I'm watching TV with my wife and she's watching something, I'll play a little bit of xCloud. I'll just sit there and play it. I'll play some Forza or something, get a couple achievements, and hit those reward points. But I just think that everything that Xbox is doing is future proof. It is, this is a generation to be a gamer. And it's a fun time to be a gamer too. And one thing that I'm super excited about is Fable, Rand. Fable. Yes. I am so, you know what? When Fable comes out, I think we should all get matching Fable tattoos.
I saw somebody's report, like, I don't know how legitimate it was, but he was saying, like, almost all of the first party stuff, besides like Halo, is like 3 or 4 years away, including Fable. But it just, I don't know, that doesn't add up to me. That kind of made the rounds on Twitter. He acted like an insider. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's,
You mean, what, Fable being like that far out? Or?
Fable, Everwild, any of the new stuff from Bethesda. Also, you got Forza Motorsport.
Now, did he also say Starfield was that far out? Because if so,
he said first party Xbox besides Halo Infinite is what his tweet said. And I just I can't buy into like 3 or 4 years for all of those. Like, I don't know, maybe a few of them it would make sense. I
never expected Fable or Perfect Dark until 2023 at the earliest.
Perfect Dark makes sense for me.
Those games are years away still. Everwild, I also believe, is 2023. So I don't think he's wrong by saying those 3 games specifically are years away. Because I've been thinking the exact same. Like I think there's a good chance, clowns, you're going to be disappointed because I don't think we see Fable this year at E3.
Not even like a glimpse of it. Not even.
I don't think so because I think they're going to focus on stuff that's closer. And Fable, like they're still hiring for positions on that team at Playground. Right. I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. This is just my personal prediction and like opinion on it, but I've always expected Fable to be a 2023 title, and Perfect Dark is more leaning to me to a 2023, potentially 2024. And then you don't know what COVID has done, because I heard internally that working from home has essentially delayed almost all their roadmap anywhere between 3 to 12 months, depending on title. So I think that Chris dude's right about those 3 games specifically, but some of the Bethesda games are a lot closer. Like Starfield's either this year or next year. Wolfenstein 3 is more than likely next year. Arcane's Projekt is soon. And then there's the other Xbox, first party titles like Avowed could be next year. Hellblade 2 could be next year. Like I get the anxiety of listening to someone who says, "Hey, I've talked to people at Xbox Game Studios, and oh my God, these games are so far away," right? Because we've been waiting for a while for these acquisitions to bear fruit. And, COVID being what it was kind of really impacted all game development. You look at now, like Warner Brothers had to delay their entire slate. Harry Potter got delayed to next year. Gotham Knights got delayed. Deathloop's gotten delayed twice. It seems like it really impacted development. And we don't even know if God of War is coming this year. That probably got delayed. Gran Turismo 7 got delayed. Like games are getting delayed because just like working from home is not conducive to game development. And Xbox, you could argue smartly, whatever, they didn't really give any release windows on any of the stuff they revealed last year. So it was just, here's Fable, it's coming. We're not telling you when. Here's Avowed, it's coming, but we're not telling you when. So I do think there's going to be a mixture of some titles are 2022, some titles are 2023, some are 2024, and then they're going to sprinkle in like the global publishing deals in between, the Kojima title somewhere else, other things we don't know about, plus Game Pass. But we kind of have to get through the work from home stuff before these studios can kind of get back into their normal cadence of, you look at a studio like id, and they take 3 to 4 years to make a game, Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal. So it's going to be a little bit like when you add COVID on top of it, it takes longer. So their next title, considering they just put out Doom Eternal, would you normally peg for 2023, 2024, but you add COVID on top of it, maybe it's a little bit further away. So yeah, I know that's maybe tough to hear for some people. Not everything is going to be next year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And some of these things are going to be spread out. So I do think though that, to your point, a lot of people use him as like proof that the games are far away when he was specifically talking about just 3 games out of.
Right. It came across like the headline.
Yeah.
It's different than that. You know what I mean? And maybe that's clickbait. Well,
I don't know. I mean, it's clickbait from the people who wrote the articles sourcing him, because he was pretty direct, being like, I've talked to people, some games are far away, mention those 3 specific games. But you know how people are on the internet, especially people who don't like Xbox. They'll twist his words into basically saying, hey, you know what? You're going to still be waiting. Like, look at you guys waiting years for stuff. Like, you're still waiting, blah, 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 blah. But it's 3 games from 3 studios when Microsoft has 23 studios, 35 teams. Right. So I wouldn't be worried about it.
I think what I read was an article that was quoting him where they were using his quote, but then adding their own opinion into it. Yeah. Right. And I can't remember exactly where I read it, because I kind of was like, oh, this is like ridiculous. And I just kind of moved on. But if it's only about those specific games, and that completely makes sense, because we haven't seen really anything from those. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you look at like Perfect Dark and Fable, for instance, those 2 trailers, super short, but they were basically announced trailers to get people as a recruitment tool. The initiative is hiring. They only have 80 employees right now. Like I mentioned, Playground is hiring for the Fable team. I think there's like 80 open positions still, and they want to get to 200. So these teams are still growing, and now that the information's out there, hey, come work on Fable, come work on Perfect Dark. It makes sense that those titles are still years away, and like
So without COVID, do you think it would have been 2022?
I think it's possible without COVID screwing things up. It probably could have been a little bit earlier. Although honestly, like I've always kind of thought Fable was 2023 to start with.
So that's the one that surprises me because just Fable, it's like we've been hearing rumors about that with Playground Games for years, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one I think a lot of people have in their mind, like as a possible next year game, just because of how long we've been hearing this like murmuring of like Playground's working on a Fable game. Nobody can talk about it, but Playground's working on a Fable game, and that's been like what seems like 2 years now, maybe that's been out there, right?
It's actually been like 4 years.
4 years, right?
Basically 2018.
Yeah.
But they didn't really build the second studio until like 2019. So a lot of that was like just pre-production work. For me personally, I want great games from Xbox. Right. And I want, like, if the games take time and they need to be delayed, then I'm perfectly happy with it, because I don't want the Xbox that didn't give the games the budget they needed to be great and would just push them out the door when there wasn't ready. I mean, that's the reason why you have the Xbox, the whole meme about Xbox Game Studios just puts out 60 Metacritic games. Because like Xbox didn't have anything, so they were just like, we need you to release. We don't care what state you're in. We don't care if you don't have a lot of content. Like, the Sea of Thieves when it first launched. Like, it's a great game now, but it didn't have a lot of content. It was just, we need you out now because we got nothing else. Crackdown, we need you out now. I want that Xbox to be gone, and I'm pretty sure that pretty much is, because you have so many different teams that it doesn't matter that Fable is 2 years away or Perfect Dark's 3 years away, because you're going to have all these other games in the meantime. So
maybe this is why we've been hearing some of that Microsoft publishing stuff with, possibly having 3 other franchises that they're working on or something, getting deals for,
Yeah, that's true.
To kind of maybe fill in those gaps.
They have a good problem of having a lot of different teams, so the pressure isn't just on Halo, Gears, Forza. There's a lot of different teams we have now at Xbox, where they have now Bethesda, and they have the Coalition, and they have all these other teams. So I think it's just a good problem they do have, where the pressure isn't just on several teams and rushing games out the door, like Rand was saying. And E3 is going to be great. I think the original question was E3 of which games are going to be at E3, and I think I am starting to agree with games like Fable being that far. I don't want to think that way, because I really want to see Fable, and it's one of the games that's been in production for a bit, but it's sad. The sadness.
3-bit, what do you know? What do you know, 3-bit?
He knows everything.
I'm just like Rand. I'm not an insider. Okay.
He's smiling behind that camera.
Of course,
that's why it's not.
That's why I
he
turned my
always
camera
does.
on. Okay.
You just got to ask him the right questions, what the things that he knows about. But he's great and does not share anything with anybody. He is close-lipped. He's like a statue. You can't get anything out of him.
Have you
It's
met
like that
3-bit's attorney, Mav?
Yes.
He's always watching over him.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one of
nice
those
letter.
now? 3-bit,
Got
you're
a nice
moving up.
letter.
Yeah, I had to, get there's a constant sniper on me, so I had to, make sure I'm not leaking anything.
So I think E3 would be interesting. I mean, you got surprise Konami showing up. Why is Konami there? Well, for me, I'm interested in the new Yu-Gi-Oh game, but for the world, what other things are they going to show outside of that? I've definitely been waiting on some games since last year that also got pushed back. because of the pandemic, like, Tales of Rise. I'm definitely excited for the new PSO, New Genesis. The beta sign-up starts next week. That Exo Mecha looks pretty cool, even though it's an indie. I'm definitely super excited for Shin Megami Tensei 5, Sifu, King of the Fighters 15, Christ Tales is an indie game I was looking for last year as well. Couldn't wait for that to come out. They redoing some of the old beat 'em ups too, which I think is pretty cool. Like Phantom Breaker, I don't know if nobody played that, but came out on a 360 arcade, and if you owned it, you can download it on your X1. It's backwards compatible. But they coming out with a new one called Omnia.
We not to interrupt you, PK or 3-bit, but we have a question in the chat from Daz to Randall Capone, and the question is, this is kind of out there, Rand, so just be prepared. He asked if you like beans on toast.
I've never actually had beans on toast, so that's a tough. I don't know. Is that a British delicacy? Beans on toast?
Like a British snack. They toast some bread, put some butter, throw some beans on top, and then some cheese.
Yeah, can't say I've ever had it, but shout out to Daz. He's a great guy. Daz, baby.
We're playing those racing games, man.
Yep.
Have you watched any of it, like lately his streams? With those racing games, he's pretty much playing one-handed and freaking just annihilating the track with hot laps. I mean, that dude's insane. I would never play a racing game against Daz. I'm just saying that.
No, yeah, you would definitely lose.
Yeah, 100%.
So I know something that you guys kind of brought up actually, and Rand talked about this a little bit, was Kojima and Xbox. I know that E3 is coming up. Do you think we're gonna see any announcement with Kojima and Xbox at E3? And do you have any ideas, guesses, I guess you could say, or thoughts on what it could be with Kojima? Brand, that's for you, by the way.
Oh, that was for me? I thought it was for somebody else.
No, sorry. Sorry.
So the Kojima stuff, I think it's happening. First off, I think that's 99% sure for happening. I think if I had to guess on the genre, I think it's going to be the title he talked to Stadia about. So it's going to be horror related, maybe episodic in nature, which would be a good pickup for Game Pass. Like, I understand why Microsoft would want it. Kojima is a legendary developer. It would definitely bring a lot of attention to the platform to get his next game exclusively if Microsoft is publishing it. It would be huge for Game Pass. It also would really make some inroads in Japan, not only from people, Japanese people who like his titles, but also like potentially signaling to other Japanese creators that, hey, maybe Xbox is a platform you need to take a second look at, release some of your games on the system, maybe day one on Game Pass. The big question is, would it be ready for this year's E3? Like Jeffy Grubb over at VentureBeat, he's saying that the deal's with the lawyers. Now, that could mean many different things. I think it more means like they're just kind of figuring out like the compensation, like all the money and stuff. And it's basically agreed upon, that what type of game it is and all that stuff. So if that ends up being true, is that enough time for Xbox to announce it at E3? Is it enough time for Kojima to have a trailer, make a trailer? Was a trailer already made? Or stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not confident enough to say 100% that Kojima, and his game would be announced at E3. It would certainly be a big announcement if that was the case. I don't know. I'm going to take a wait and see approach on that, or unless I start hearing more information, because we're still 2 months out. Usually don't really start hearing things until maybe like a month before, when plans start to kind of really they start going out to more people, and the more people that know a secret, the looser the lips are. You know what I'm saying? People start to talk a little bit about certain things. So we'll see. I do think it would be a big moment if, and I'm not one of those people, by the way. I'm just going to say this, that was trashing Death Stranding and Kojima, because there's definitely people out there who don't like Kojima, that have said he's overrated, that trash Death Stranding, who are probably really excited at the idea of Kojima making an Xbox game. I like Kojima. I've enjoyed his games. I actually really enjoyed Death Stranding. So I would play his game regardless of whatever platform it is on. So I'm not one of those people that is like, because everyone's like, oh, hypocrite and stuff like that. But it's like, no, like I'm down for Kojima's game wherever it is. I just think that title and his influence and would do a lot for Xbox. It would do a lot for selling Game Pass subscriptions, selling consoles, selling the platform in general. So I think overall it's a pretty cool thing. And if this really is his horror title, that's kind of like PT on the PlayStation 4, that little demo, there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna want to play it. So
yeah, for sure. I think it's the perfect stage to do it. If you're gonna do this, I mean, again, like Rand said, it depends on the timing, but if you've got any opportunity to make it happen on E3, especially with how, everybody's been cooped up for, over a year now and everybody's waiting. Last year was kind of a letdown when it came to news because, there was so many delays and nobody had like a really big show. So I think this E3, even though it's just digital, is probably going to be bigger than, maybe what some people are expecting, just because everybody's so excited to get a bunch of information all at one time within a short period of time, like we used to, which was always kind of a big celebration for the industry. So, if you've got Kojima in your back pocket, this is the time to do it. And I think, I think they're probably going to do everything possible to get something put together, whether it's actual game announcement or not. Obviously, again, depends how far along it is. Maybe he had stuff ready for Stadia, so maybe he's got something available to show a little bit of. But at the end of the day, just having Kojima at some point announced during E3 would be a huge win for Xbox. And again, they've just been doing the right thing lately, time and time again. They've been getting that hype train rolling. So to have a Kojima, even if it's just Kojima Productions just showing up, on the E3 stage and just a short announcement coming soon. I mean, that would blow open the doors. So I think they're definitely going to try to get something done there.
Yeah, if they had the trailer where he's just like, "Did you miss me?"
Exactly.
Being a digital event, it makes it like more of an opportunity too, because I mean, it's easier just to like make something and him pop up on screen live or whatever. Or I don't know have they announced these shows are actually going to be live, or are they going to be pre-recorded?
But they haven't said yet, but I would imagine they're going to be pre-recorded.
Right. So that's kind of like what Xbox did for their big show last year, right? So that would take some time to potentially put together, but it would be easy for Kojima to send them them to record a little video with him, right? Just saying, "Hey, I'm Kojima, my next game coming to Xbox Game Pass day one." The crazy thing for me with Kojima and Xbox and this potentially happening, which I like you guys, I think it is because Jeff Grubb has a pretty good track record. Right. I mean, and he himself isn't saying it's a done deal. He's saying it looks like it's going to be a done deal, or like they're talking and it's close to the finish line. It's pretty much what he's saying. And like, if that's the case, I think Microsoft's going to make this thing work. Right. So it seems like it's a done deal. The crazy thing for me is just from the mindset of Kojima game on Xbox, we've had that. Right. We've had Metal Gear 5. We've had a lot of the Metal Gears come eventually over to Xbox and stuff. Right. Death Stranding wasn't, right? But for Kojima and Xbox, having a game on Xbox is not necessarily new. What's new is him not having his game on PlayStation, right? Right. Because this deal would essentially take that away from the PlayStation base, right? And you would have a lot of consumers that are looking to say, "Hey, I really want to play the next Kojima game because we love his games," and the home for them is going to have to be either Xbox or xCloud or whatever to access that game. So it's a smart move from Xbox from just pure PR perspective and also to drive subs to Game Pass, because that's ultimately what this is all about, right? Variety, mind share, all of that kind of stuff, and it also you get some cool games as well, right? So
Yeah, I think the only people who could possibly do this deal that also deals with Konami potentially is Xbox right now, because of how aggressive they're being with like studio purchases. And I've seen different rumors flying around with if people wanted like Metal Gear remakes and stuff like that. And I think it would be an amazing story arc to have Kojima to be able to return to the series he once created, and there are 2 Metal Gear games that could definitely benefit from a remake, and one that already has a benefit in place. Like the first Metal Gear game, as far as I know, hasn't really been ported over on modern day consoles. As much as Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, which are on the Xbox, like you were saying, Mav, like which games are on the Xbox? I think Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 are.
yeah, they came in a collection.
Yeah, and Peace Walker, I think, which was a PSP port or something like that. We haven't seen Metal Gear Solid 4 on anything besides the PS3, and that's shutting down right now. So unless you have a physical copy of that game, that's going to get harder to play. But in E3, I think there's a lot of awesome things that could be announced at E3, and
you can hear it in his voice right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think with all of the different things that's happening with Kojima, I do think it's a thing. I think people who are hating on Kojima, he has such a unique style of storytelling, and that not everybody is going to like that. He has very long cutscenes, but he also does very interesting things with, like, for example, like PT, right? With how he did the horror game, he basically created his own horror genre in a way, just from a demo. And so people took that demo and kind of created their own like PT games from that. So I think he's definitely a visionary. And
the other thing is his games come out polished. I mean, big time. His games are well done when they're ready to come out, which is a huge boon for anybody if Xbox were to get them, especially. That game's going to come out when it's ready, and it's going to be in a good shape. We're not going to have any big issues. I mean, again, anything can happen, but I'm just saying the track record for him and his team is that of high quality once it gets here. So that's another big deal.
Yeah.
So Rand, I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm one of those guys who thinks he's overrated. Also, I did not enjoy Death Stranding. It was probably my most frustrating 40 hours of my life. But even though he doesn't make games for me that I enjoy, doesn't mean that it's not a good thing for him to continue to make games that other people enjoy. I do believe that Xbox or the Xbox brand needs a Japanese or Asian presence, though I prefer it to be Sega and not Kojima. He makes acquired taste games that not everyone can get attached to, but he does have a following, so I can see that being a plus. So I'm hoping that the buck doesn't stop there and they keep it pressing past this man. But I'm glad that it almost is kind of poetic because he came to Xbox after Stadia as the second choice, as like this is his last resort or whatnot. But hey, if it turns out to be a good horse genre, that's not my kind of games. I'm not into those, but I can see a lot of people enjoy that stuff, and that's cool. So hopefully he does make something that is episodic. So that means it'll keep going. And a lot of people will definitely jump on to engage to hop onto that. That's a good thing. So hopefully that it turns out well. Far as being published, my biggest critique of him is going over budget. always spending more money than he makes back. So it's more like, don't throw the purse at this guy. And, make sure you have some checks and balances in place.
I mean, if I was a developer, anybody that's willing to pay to fund my game, that's where I'll go. Maybe that's just me though. Like,
Well, he
I'm
doesn't have
saying-
any choices left either.
That's kind of what I'm saying, is he's at his last.
Yeah.
It's almost like if this game don't hit, it's a wrap. So he's burned a lot of bridges, is what I'm getting at. And so he has to make sure that he gets his ducks in a row, gets the people that put him on straight on his team, so that way he's not messing, putting his foot in his mouth in his own game. Said that twice. He contradicted his own self in his own Metal Gear game, his own story. It's like he forgot what happened in the beginning of the game. So that stuff can't happen if you're telling a narrator-driven game. Definitely need to get his team together that kept him on track.
Hey, while we're on this topic, Rand, do you mind if I ask you a question real quick? With Death Stranding, we know it's a Sony IP. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Miles Dump, was on Iron Lords, and he made an insinuation that he thought or had some kind of knowledge, without saying that he had knowledge, that was actually going to come to Xbox. Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't think it'll come to the console.
No.
I think that's a no-go. However,
Okay.
Microsoft does have PC storefront.
Yep.
There's Xbox Game Pass PC.
Right.
I think PlayStation was really lenient in sort of the provisions they gave Kojima, because they allowed Death Stranding to come out on PC 6 months later. And I know 505 Games does publish that version of Death Stranding on Steam, and it's not Sony themselves. So maybe there's some scenario in there written in the contracts that doesn't necessarily forbid that game to come to the Windows 10 store and being on Xbox Game Pass for PC. However, I don't think you'll never. I mean, never say never, but like I think there's like 0% chance that game will ever end up on an Xbox console.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
especially
PC
because of the engine.
potentially. Well, the engine and there's no. I mean, well, you say no way, but the MLB The Show is about to launch on Xbox.
Yeah.
But we
But
know
that's a
the reasons
licensed
for
game,
that.
though.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
So
But-
yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'll just say I wouldn't be surprised if a couple months down the road, they Xbox Game Pass for PCs like Death Stranding coming to Windows 10 or whatever. Right.
Right.
With that said, that also says that since games like Spider-Man being licensed, who's to say that Disney says, even though they're making a lot of money, they wouldn't want it to go to PC or etc. I mean, it's not a Sony-owned product, so it's definitely possible. Anything licensed.
Is there
that you
anything
own.
not possible right now? I mean,
Yeah. Who knows what's in this? The one, speaking of Miles, though, they had a YouTube video on Windows Central. The one I alluded to a little while ago when they were talking about things that they're hearing about Microsoft Publishing having not just like deals like they've made with some of their other games, like Battletoads and a Flight Simulator, but big AAA games that would surprise people and things that are, in their words, pretty awesome or something like that. I mean, they just seem pretty excited about the possibility of these things, and they said that I think they knew about 3 things. One of them they've teased with the little typhoon or hurricane emoji or whatever. And do you think we could potentially see some of the announcements like that at E3? Because that, for me, if you are trying, let's say Fable, Everwild, right, Perfect Dark, let's say these games are 2023. Let's just play that. Okay, Starfield actually does hit late this fall, right? Or this holiday.
Games we don't know about, Mav.
Xbox has said that. Xbox has said themselves that there are games that we don't know about that is coming out this year, right? So I think we're going to see those. What are those? Is that some of these other games that they're talking about from the publishing side? Is that maybe Forza Horizon 5, right? That's maybe cross-gen between Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles. Is that we know Flight Sim's coming, so Halo's coming. So what does that leave, right? What other big title is there? I would anticipate maybe one other, right? Starfield. So I think Starfield could have a big presence potentially at E3, but also what is those other announcements that we could possibly get? Like if we already know about all the other big franchises, like, because that's what excites me, is something new that I don't know about, right?
I think the newer announcements will come from the Bethesda side this year, because they still have yet, they still need to reveal Starfield and Wolfenstein and Arcane's game or whatever else they're doing, like Roundhouse. It's certainly possible that Microsoft reveals more Xbox Global Publishing titles at E3. The game that Jez is hinting at is a candidate for it. I could definitely see that happening. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of all this. It's just all just kind of speculation, and none of us really know. So we're just kind of sitting there being like, well, I want to see this, I want to see that. What is possible? I just wish I could freeze myself and wake up and Xbox shows tomorrow, and I wouldn't have to, because I'm sure there's going to be, like, we got 2 months to lead up. I'm sure there's going to be quote unquote leaks that someone makes up on Reddit and 4chan. And all these different things, and like it always happens every single year. But yeah, I mean, you could be right. I don't know. It's just a wait and see thing, man. Like we just we don't got that much longer to wait. So
I think I figured out Jez's tease, by the way. Since
Oh,
that's a
did you?
hurricane. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a hurricane symbol, right? Or it could be. So Hydro Thunder Hurricane remade.
There you go. Nice.
No, I'm confused. Now I'm trying to think, and all I see is like a Florida hurricane coming through, and I'm like, damn.
Well, Jez did say on Twitter that it's a new IP,
Right.
so
That's
not Hydro
I
Thunder.
I was thinking that had something to do with the developer. I was
not
digging
related.
around.
Not related to Ubisoft or Dreamcast or any of that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So new IP from an independent developer. But yeah, so your guess is Hydro Thunder? Okay.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah.
That was the only thing. I did dig in. I know Mav was digging. We were both trying to figure something out. And that was
I was Googling hurricane developer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like
I was doing that too.
I
Hurricane
just kept
Studios,
finding Just Cause things
Yeah.
with storms and all that.
Right.
So I couldn't find anything.
So also another thing I was thinking about is, okay, so Bethesda is now owned by Xbox. Bethesda is going to be at E3. Xbox has said they're doing something with Bethesda to showcase a lot of their stuff, and I'm guessing that's going to be the E3 thing, or I don't know if that's going to be separate. But okay, so they got Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo to show off. Do we think those are going to actually be on the Bethesda stage, or are they going to say, okay, Sony, if you need us to show these games, they're going to be on your stage? Because our show is all about Xbox. You know what I mean?
That really depends. If I had to guess, I think they would be at Sony's show whenever Sony does theirs. Although you don't know what contracts are in place. Maybe they're contractually obligated to show these games at a Bethesda showcase. In which case, I'm sure they would, and they'd fulfill that contract. We don't know how that works, but Sony's been pretty good at advertising. Like every single show they do, it's always Deathloop, right? Because that's really close. They paid a lot of money for it, so you would presumably guess that they would also be the ones that they would want to show it at their own thing. So I would guess right now that Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, even though Deathloop got delayed, so both games will probably again be at Sony's show simply because they paid money for it, which is kind of funny. They paid Xbox in a roundabout way to get PS5 exclusives. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm really glad E3 is back. I was not a fan of hundreds of these other shows, like mini shows that was going on like last year. I see like a lot of people were like, oh, I kind of like the news dropouts of we get constant news throughout the year. But
I liked it.
I liked it, yeah. And hopefully, when the pandemic is better, we can go to E3. I went to E3. I could not find the Microsoft building. I was like stuck there. I didn't know it was in a whole separate section. But but yeah, I miss E3, and I miss this whole vibe of everybody being sort of a celebratory mood for this one event that we can all basically celebrate, and all these different game developers come together, and then of course Sony's just like no, but yeah, we still got some good stuff going on.
Do we get to see Hellblade 2? Do we get another snippet?
Ooh, good question.
I think Hellblade 2 gameplay is going to be there, bro.
You do?
That's my
Okay.
prediction. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll lay it on the line. Hellblade 2 gameplay should be there. It
Okay.
will be there. I'll say it.
All right,
now.
quoted, Matt.
Lock it in.
Don't crucify me. I'm
IGN,
sorry.
write the article. Fun speculation says Hellblade will be there.
Yeah, it's just a guess. I think they need to. For me, if I was to guess out of all those big franchises they've announced, that would be one of the ones that's probably hopefully 2022, right?
2022 is right,
I would assume.
Yeah.
And they've talked at the game showcase that they had last year. They had the whole Iceland thing where they showed Iceland stuff or whatever,
Yep.
and and that was kind of like missing, like from the focal point of everybody was excited for Hellblade at that show, right? And we really didn't get what we wanted from that. So I'm thinking, even if it's not 2022, I think they're going to take a next level and I think that's going to be the visual thing that's going to wow people. I think they're going to show that game in engine running somehow, and it's just going to blow people's freaking minds, right? With the visuals,
Right.
Because the last one does now. If you play the Hellblade on Series X, I mean, it looks like a real freaking person, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
So that game running like it's Unreal Engine 5 and all this stuff, it's just with their new studio, their new equipment that they have, the new investment they have, new studio. It's just, I think it's going to be pretty incredible what they do with that franchise. So
I do have a burning question, right? I mean, this is something that I posted on Twitter, and I'm afraid I'm going to end up owing Rand, Al, Thor, and Kid Smooth on this. So, Rand, do you think we're going to see any announcement yet upcoming E3 or maybe shortly after E3 if we're going to see that, Starfield is exclusive or multiplayer?
Do I think Starfield's a multiplayer exclusive? You're going to owe me $25. You know that, right?
I know. Yeah, I got this
I haven't
feeling that
forgotten
it's
it.
coming up. Yeah.
I haven't
a lot
forgotten
more
it.
people.
So you better start saving your money.
I mean, do you think though that they're going to come out at E3 and say what their plans are for Starfield or shortly after?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's very, very, very high chance that Starfield will be at E3. It'll probably get a really extensive demo. Whether or not it launches this year is anybody's guess. I mean, I've been saying that optimistically, I think so, but it could be delayed. Who knows?
Rand, I think that you're right. Like I think the intention would have been for that game to release this year.
My understanding was that it was targeted for release last fall.
Correct.
But
Right.
COVID delayed it.
Yep.
And it was now it's targeting this fall. Now whether or not it makes it, who knows? So it could be delayed again. But one thing I will say I do know is that Starfield is 100% exclusive. Clowns. I wouldn't have made a bet. I don't make bets unless I know for sure things are. So
That game has to be
man.
exclusive.
You might as well go ahead and pay him now.
No, we can wait. We can wait. No, it's Starfield. Well, okay. So I guess Starfield will be on platforms that support Game Pass. So that's
Right.
Xbox consoles, that's PC, that's mobile, smart TVs and stuff. So will Starfield end up on a Switch or a PlayStation? That depends. Is Game Pass going to be on those two? If yes, then yes. If no, then no. But right now, Starfield will only... You're probably talking natively. You weren't talking about, streamable or whatever. So, no, Starfield's not going to be on PS5. So, You can take that to the bank.
So
Give
you're
me my
getting
money.
you're getting a little juicy here, Rand. Are you saying that you think Game Pass is going to potentially be on PS5 and also maybe Nintendo?
I mean, all you got to do is really look at what Microsoft's goal is, and what Phil said. Even at the Bethesda roundtable, he said like, these games are going to be exclusives, basically wherever Game Pass exists. He didn't say Xbox consoles. He left the door open for, hey, wherever platform has Game Pass, the games will be there. That's the whole strategy. They want to be the dominant subscription force. They want 100 million users. So if Jim Ryan said tomorrow, we'll take Game Pass on Xbox, I bet you they'd be on the phone working out that deal immediately. Same thing with Nintendo. If and there's rumors that of a Nintendo Xbox sort of deal or whatever. If Nintendo said the same thing, hey, we'll take Game Pass on our platform, Xbox they sign that deal in a heartbeat.
Yep.
So
yeah, I don't think Phil would have phrased it that way if he wasn't planning on releasing
exactly
it.
Because he could have said on Xbox consoles and PC, right?
Right.
But by not saying, like, he's not ever, because he could trap himself in a corner if they did put their stuff on Switch in the future, right? So he says where Game Pass exists, he's basically telling you, like, don't rule out anywhere else just yet. I mean, he's even talked about it. He would support the Switch if they could get a full Xbox Live experience, meaning like, achievements and all that stuff. So if they could essentially come to an agreement with Nintendo, yeah, I think Game Pass on Switch is a thing that possibly could happen. So,
yeah.
And we did see a Switch on the shelf too, which I mean, it seems like
shelf.
a hint.
Everything that goes on his shelf happens. That's what
I do think the Nintendo Xbox partnership is real, by the way.
Yeah.
So sorry, Rand. Go ahead.
Yes. I was just gonna say I don't think it's as exciting as people like hope. I think it's just gonna be your more generic, hey, we're Nintendo and we just signed a deal with Microsoft to use Azure for back-end stuff and cloud gaming moving forward, just like Sony did. You know what I mean? I think it's more in line with that. But who knows? Maybe it also has more future potential for partnerships. Maybe
like
Game Pass does come. It's like a start of something. You know what I mean? So, but Microsoft wants Nintendo and PlayStation to use Azure. It means more money for Microsoft as a Azure's their moneymaker. So it makes sense for them as a business.
So a couple years from now, guys, we could potentially be living in a world where we are playing on a Nintendo handheld device, a Kojima game through an Xbox app.
True story.
Yeah. Or we walk in like a Walmart, we see a TV and it says comes with Game Pass on the TV.
Yeah. Well, that's going to happen. I think Xbox is going to make some deals with the TV brands, and they're going to really push that. And because it just makes sense, like, to have that branding, and it's probably going to be Samsung or LG, I guess. With Samsung, I would think first, right? I know they already have some deals in place, right?
Shout out to Matthew in the chat. I would agree. It would be nice to have either Doom Guy or Chief in Smash. And there was a hint earlier from Walmart teasing about Smash, and he's like, wait, I haven't been invited yet. That's what the Chief said.
I definitely think that could happen before Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
I think that's a big marketing thing.
There's still 2 more characters left in this character pass. So
yeah.
I want to see Ori in Smash.
I've been wanting to see Master Chief in Smash Bros. Since it launched. They already have Banjo-Kazooie, which is owned by Rare, and then Steve from Minecraft. So they do already have some sort of relationship for the people who says like they don't to get this to work. And who better than Master Chief? And just the potential of like the story bits they can pull from Halo, like he's giving the Covenant back their bomb with a huge spiky Covenant explosive device thing as like maybe a special attack, or the bubble shield and stuff. It's cool stuff. He needs to be in Smash Bros.
Rand, I wanted to ask you if you remember this, right? Because there were rumors about this, and then there was people that swore that they actually had the actual app on it. But a while ago, maybe 2 years ago, there were rumors, and then some press outlets said it was actually true, was that there was a Game Pass app for Switch already in beta testing. And I remember some press ran with that, and I remember some underground forums talked about it, and people were trying to get like the leaked app itself. Do you remember that rumor?
I actually don't remember that rumor, personally, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft prototypes some sort of xCloud variant on the Switch. You know, that wouldn't be too shocking for me. They have a lot of things in prototype that never see the light of day, or we know they were prototyping, xCloud on iOS when they kind of really weren't supposed to be or allowed to, and then they had to change things up, and now they're doing a web browser on iOS. So I wouldn't, I think Microsoft is very upfront about what they want to do with the future. Like Game Pass is the platform. The consoles and PC and mobile are just the way to access that. And I think they want to reach Microsoft's whole goal, admittedly, is, hey, we want to reach the 3 billion gamers in the world, right? So putting Game Pass on Switch makes a lot of sense from Microsoft's own business strategies, right? You get to sell your subscription to 70 million engaged users of Nintendo, right? Some of them who don't own an Xbox who might be willing to subscribe. There's also, I think, they've sold 15 million or 20 million in Japan. That would be a nice inroad into an area that Xbox has normally not done very well in. And we know Japan is very much a mobile-centric country. So then if you get Kojima and have a Kojima game in Game Pass on the Switch, a lot of people might just subscribe on their Switch to play game. Like, you would understand from a business perspective why Xbox would look at Nintendo and be like, this would be huge for us. This would give us millions of subscribers. Even though you could argue, like, is it worth it for Microsoft? Because you can already play their games on iOS and Android. Presumably, Microsoft's not giving a cut to Google or iOS. Like, right. They would have to probably compensate Nintendo in some manner. And I think, yeah, it would be worth it, because as cool as playing your game on a phone, everybody has phones. It's still gangly and kind of clunky, like, to do touchscreen stuff. It's not built for gaming. You'd have to buy an accessory like the Razer Keysea or something to get the fullest use out of your phone. Whereas, like, the Nintendo Switch is a perfectly made handheld device. And I think a lot of Xbox gamers would look at it like, man, that would be really cool. I can use my Nintendo Switch that I own, and I can use it as a portable Xbox player at that point, right? So I 100% believe Microsoft wants it on Switch. Nintendo, Nintendo's a little bit different. It's like, what do they get out of it? Like, would they really want to help Microsoft in that regard? Like, they've built up their user base. They're very protective of it. Do they want someone really selling a subscription from a competitor, quote unquote, directly to their customers? So, like, you get it from Microsoft's perspective, but then you look at Nintendo and it's like, I could see why they wouldn't want it. But hey, that future would be interesting though, right? Playing a Kojima game, an Xbox exclusive Kojima game on Nintendo Switch through Game Pass and xCloud. Like, that is an interesting future.
What a world.
Yeah, I would think so too. But I mean, that would lead to the fact that somebody in the chat brought up Pixelbit G. He's saying that, the Switch would be useless on the go for Game Pass because it has no internet access. And that makes me think, could it be possible that we get a Switch revision in the future with like a SIM card slot that you can add to a data plan, like a tablet data plan or something? We've seen that with the Vita in the past, where it had, a cell connection. So, I mean, anything's possible. Pretty excited, man. I'm just excited for the way that everything is going. And the biggest problem that I'm seeing is PlayStation's lack of thinking forward. For me, looking at this whole situation, I feel like PlayStation is still trying to rock this hardware sales like a dinosaur, and they're not really prepared to move as forward as quickly as Microsoft or Nintendo might be in this space. And I think that's going to hurt PS Now. I play PS Now. I have both subscriptions, Game Pass and PS Now. I think PS Now has great potential, but the streaming on that is absurd. It's terrible. I'm playing Sly Cooper, and there's latency between button pushes, and it's just especially with the store closing. You'd figure that PlayStation would be like, we're closing all our older stores, so let's fix up PS Now. Let's make it a little bit better, slightly more like Game Pass. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact copy, but just a little bit better. And I just feel like that. I don't know where PlayStation's thinking, man. And I don't know at this point if Jim Ryan's still the right guy for to head PlayStation. He might be better in other departments like marketing, but I feel like they need like their own Phil Spencer over there trying to push new ideas.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo's not really, and I know we're about to talk about Nintendo for a second, but Nintendo has different goals in mind, and they're definitely in their own bubble. And PlayStation right now, they are in a space where not really sure what Jim Ryan is doing, but they have the Azure servers, right? And Microsoft is probably going to improve that further with the purchase of Bethesda having Orion. And that technology with Azure and Orion is just going to make it even better. And I mean, PlayStation, they've bought it, right? They just are deciding not to use it, and they just have certain things on PlayStation Now where I think they are competing at a level where budgetary where they could. I think like this is the level they can possibly compete with. Yes, it could be better, but Microsoft is a friggin' $1 trillion company, and Azure, these Azure servers and all this technology is in house. This is their stuff, right? So Sony and they have to basically reach out for this technology and like, hey, can you help out with this little area? And also when you're getting things in PS Now, you need PS Plus, unless I'm mistaken about that. You need PS Plus to use PS Now, so you're kind of buying. Am I wrong about that? I know PK.
I don't think you need PS.
You don't
Plus
need
to use
you don't
PS.
need
Okay.
PS Plus. You can have PS Now separate.
Yep.
Okay, you have a separate. But Jim Ryan was basically saying how Game Pass wasn't sustainable, right? And now he's making different moves to kind of copy Game Pass, and I mean, it's not a bad thing. Game Pass is a great value, and that's why I love competition, and I would love other different companies to copy Game Pass, because I think the value proposition on Game Pass is incredible. So, I think PlayStation, they're just in a different mindset. It feels like a different PlayStation with this new leadership. They basically kicked out a lot of the people who was in the last generation, and now this is just, we'll see where what the focus and intentions are in this PlayStation. We're already starting to see it. How focused they are on movies, and how much they are flip-flopping with their messaging. One thing no one can deny, and Sony obviously sees it, is how good they are at AAA third-person action experiences. And they are king at that. And I think they're going to double down on that, as we've seen The Last of Us remake rumors, which, is probably, they're probably doing that to coincide with the TV show. That the more I start to think about it, the more it's starting to make sense of why they wouldn't want to do that. It's weird because they just made one on the PS4, and then we have smart delivery, and we're getting kind of spoiled by that. Games just being updated without us paying for it, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, man. Mind if I chime in real quick?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So as far as PlayStation, like, I don't know who's like making the decisions or pulling the strings. Like, I don't know if Jim Ryan is like, okay, the guy that's actually doing everything, because I don't know enough about them. But I know it's it could be more behind that potentially. But the talk is going to go back and forth once Sony like reveals some of these other titles they may be working on, and they start showing off God of War and Horizon Forbidden West more, and all these other things. Like, people are gonna be like, "Oh man, this is amazing again," and then you're gonna see the conversation kind of go back and forth, and then they're gonna say, "Well, Xbox's first party is still, not it's 2-3 years away," and all that kind of stuff, right? But what they can't do anything about unless they fix is that PS Now versus Game Pass thing, right? So they have to fix that, because, and I keep saying this, but if we look at it today, it's not that big of a deal. But if you go 2-3 years in the future, you got $70 games keep dropping on one platform. That adds up. Whereas the other platform, all the first party and all these other games are in Game Pass day one. And if you're going to the store and you're trying to make a decision, okay, this system has this, and I can play all of this, right? All I got to pay is $14.99 a month or whatever. I get all of this stuff. And then over here, I get this for the same price. But then if I want those 5 games that I keep hearing people talk about, that's going to cost me $350, that's a value proposition that is going to speak. I'm not saying the games themselves aren't worth $70 a piece, right? And I think they are, because they make these amazing AAA games. Like Ghost of Tsushima was my game of the year last year, right? Like, I freaking love that game. Uncharted is one of my favorite franchises, but the money speaks, right? And value proposition wise, what Xbox is doing is starting to change the mindset of gamers a little bit. And you're starting to see when Sony does something that's like when the Uncharted thing broke, right? In that article, people are starting to flip a little bit about some of that stuff. Whereas before it's just kind of like, okay, that's just like what Sony does, right? Like, cool, we're getting a Last of Us remaster today. That's awesome. What else are we going to get? Now it's like, where's our cool stuff? Because we keep seeing all this stuff from Xbox, we keep seeing all this smart delivery. Like, we keep seeing all this Game Pass news, third-party AAA games launching day one. They got the show from us. What the heck's going on? How could you let that happen? And you got all of this stuff just compounding on top of each other. Constant news. It's not even at the Xbox shows. Xbox is having this as just regular news drops, like every few weeks. There's something new, right? And PlayStation's just kind of trucking along, and they know what they got and kind of holding it close to their vest, and people are starting to get a little nervous, it seems like, right? So I've seen a lot of PlayStation YouTubers that have said stuff I've never seen them say or heard them say before. And it's starting to be an interesting conversation out there. Like, if this continues for 2 or 3 years with staying the status quo on the model that they have, like, I don't think it's going to work out for them in the long run, right? Like, they're still going to have a place, but I think Xbox is creating the future right now, and whether other companies want to believe in that or not, I think it's kind of being dictated for them, right? And they're going to have to try and see how to fit in with that. And Nintendo right now is okay, and Nintendo is always going to be their own place. But man, could you imagine like if they did stuff more like Xbox and even PlayStation for that matter? Like, I think people are going to start to see things differently over this gen, because it's going to be a bunch of amazing games, but money's going to speak, and the amount of value that Xbox is throwing out there is going to start to make other companies look a little different. So that's all I got.
Felt like you was hearing the good word. It was really good.
It was. Preach, Math.
Preach it.
The value.
Microsoft's in there and definitely in their own lane, competing against the companies they find as a competition. Nintendo's going to continue to do what Nintendo does, and their consoles are always going to sell because they make good games and people buy them. That's just what it is. They'll never make cutting edge hardware because they make profit off of every console they sell, and they're going to continue to do that.
We should want that still. right? Like, why not? Like, want like a
Because
good console from
because
Nintendo.
well, it's good for Nintendo. It is a good console for Nintendo. That's why it's successful. It's not a good console for anyone that's looking to play the same experience they get on Xbox or PlayStation on a Nintendo console. Their preference is if you want that, go play it on that console. Far as us, if you want to play these games here, you're going to play it here. And that's the way they're going to continue to do it. It's not going to ever be the same. They're never going to do that. Their mentality and their mythology, how they practice, they're never going to change because they're not making games for those people. They're making games who are fans of their games. And that's it. That's why they're not invested into the next technology because they don't care. They're not interested. And most Nintendo fans who play their games such that, Randolph don't like Pokemon, but Pokemon is their largest gaming franchise. I would argue is one of the largest gaming franchises in the world. It was in the Book of World Records as the largest at one point. It's a moneymaker. So they're not going to just share that when they can capitalize on making money off of that franchise alone. Period. They're just going to continue to do what they've been doing because it works. Sony's in a different situation where their direct competition isn't Nintendo. They're kind of only in own space. What I would say is if you really want Nintendo to progress, someone has to get into that same field that they're sitting in and go against them directly. That
I always
is
said
what's
if anyone was
going
going
to
to push them, it's not it's probably Nvidia. That's
xCloud could potentially push them.
No, it has to be someone that can compete in their space. xCloud is not the same people playing xCloud, the same people playing on the Switch. You have to be able to compete on the same space.
Well, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about potentially, 2-3 years from now, right? Like, because today everybody is completely content, but you talk about 2-3 years from now, things change with stuff, right? People's mindsets change. The hardware changes, devices change, and we don't know exactly what the Switch is planned for the next one exactly yet because there's a lot of rumors. I am a little bit excited about what they're doing with the next one if some of the rumors are true, but we'll see. I mean, it's frustrating when you see like a game come out that's like a 4K version of a game, or not even 4K, but like a version of a game that's only available for 3 months or 4 months or however long it was, and they're selling it like $60, and then it's going to go back away when the other brands are doing all this backwards compatibility and like improving the older games.
It works for them,
that.
And that's what they're pushing.
It doesn't mean it should be okay though. Like I think maybe eventually hopefully this stuff will get to some of the Nintendo fans, and maybe if people speak with their money, then we can see some changes.
They're speaking with their money. They buying what they're happy with. That's my point.
I didn't
particularly like the Pokemon game that came out. I didn't like Sword and Shield, but it's the best-selling Pokemon game ever. I generally did not like it, but it doesn't mean that people won't buy it. They speak with their pockets, and they're just going to buy what they want at the end of the day.
I got to say this. When it comes to Nintendo, they're the victim of their own success, right? They don't really have anyone competing directly into kind of the stuff that they do. Nintendo sells nostalgia and family fun friendliness. That's the face of Nintendo. And when families go look for games, at Walmart or GameStop, wherever they go, they pick up a Switch because they think it's the safest place for their kids. The online is really terrible, so there's really hardly any way that they could talk to people unless it's through a terrible chat app or they use Discord. And I mean, it works for Nintendo, right? The biggest disappointment I have with Nintendo is that the Nintendo Online, it is a cheap service, and I do like playing the retro games on there, but I'm just disappointed that it's limited. I wish that there was a lot more that they would offer, and I know that would raise the price of Nintendo Online, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them, going up in price. If they had a larger library, I'd love to see stuff on there like from that they could just run in the cloud from GameCube or the Wii era, because I mean, let's face it, Nintendo, they're the victim of their own success. It's like one of the most pirated platforms because of that, because they're so locked down and because they refuse to release some of the gems that they have. That people that have modded their Switches are playing GameCube, they're playing the Wii on it, they're playing all these different things. If Nintendo actually put the investment and the time in and charged $60 a year and had all those games on the service to play, you bet a lot of people would subscribe to that. I mean, there's no doubt. But the way that it is now, I think Nintendo is limited in their scope of who they're targeting, and they're not targeting the hardcore gamer that likes to play FPSs on PlayStation or Xbox. They're targeting people that like anime. They're targeting people that love Pokemon. They're targeting people that just want to feel safe on a closed kind of system. And I mean, for as much money as they make, it was kind of ironic that they were still running some of their servers on Windows 98. I mean, I think that's just crazy. I'm not saying that Nintendo does anything bad or wrong. They just do things differently. And it's because they don't have competition in their space to force them to kind of change or to kind of grow up. And I mean,
that's exactly my point. You're saying exactly everything that I'm saying is I agree with everything you're saying. I don't like their current structure, their online structure. I do think it will expand, but this is their first time doing it too. I mean, yeah, I like the fact that I can register 6 Switches on one service, right? I can put all my kids' Switches and more on my online service and function the same. But you're right, it is limited. It is limited, but it's their first crack. And the only way they're going to truly evolve is someone comes into their space and truly threaten their profit margin. Then you will see, like I said, I always say competition drives innovation. When somebody threatens their profits, then they'll make a move. Then PlayStation and Xbox is not going to mess with their profit margins because they don't have any direct competition. And you know, when that happens, we'll see a change up for sure in a Nintendo strategy going forward. That's for sure. I 100% believe that, and it is for a good thing. Nintendo directly does 100% need competition because it refuses to make changes, and it just won't until it has to. And sometimes, some ways, you know, I can see Mav's point of view where he wants a system that's more capable, though Nintendo will never make one like a Xbox, right? But maybe
for me, it's just something I want. Not saying that Nintendo sucks. It's just, hey, this would be really freaking cool, right? Like if Nintendo could do something more, right? Because I love Nintendo games.
I'm just pointing out that they would never sell a system at a loss. PlayStation, Xbox does. So
I mean, there are different things.
If they don't, I was just trying to make an example that's just their way they do business. They're just not going to. After the 64 and the GameCube, they're never doing that again. So the technology has to fit in the means where they still make a profit off of selling that system. Because think about it, Nintendo, like I said, only had 2 brand new games last year, still sold well. 2 brand new games, that's it. Rest of them are ports and remakes. But they
we should want more. Like, why aren't people asking for more? Because other companies get bashed for this stuff.
Because they're content with what they have. That's why. They pay for what they got and they're happy with it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just being real with it.
I just want more. I also like what Matt was saying about like xCloud and stuff. I think the industry is just constantly moving, right? Where companies or people who originally was like bashing on Xbox back in Xbox One's launch with the whole DRM situation. Now every game is like online. Right, where you're pretty much required to play certain games online. I think if anyone is going to push Nintendo, I agree with you guys. Like Nintendo's very stubborn and where they lie, and it takes a lot for Nintendo to step outside of that, and unless they think it benefits them in some way. I think if anyone is going to push them, it's probably going to be. I keep saying NVIDIA, but it just makes sense to me. because NVIDIA wants to compete against AMD. AMD is in Series X and PlayStation consoles. And if I were going against, if I want to showcase the next thing, and put my next chip, my next video card in the newer consoles, I would want to be like, hey, Nintendo, we kind of want to push something. And they did. To be fair, they did try this with the Switch, and Nintendo did push back. They're like, no, that did happen with the Switch, but maybe if anyone.
The problem is the price tag for NVIDIA is way too high, and Nintendo is not going to pay for that. So it's more like, what do you got on the shelf? That's how they're looking at it. What do you got on the shelf that's $5.99? They're not going to pay a bunch of money like, Sony and Microsoft does for their deal with AMD. And that's why they went with AMD, because it's a lot cheaper. But I see where you're coming from. And I think that's a good point is it depends on how NVIDIA wants to look at this. Like pushing Nintendo by showcasing their product, they would need to come up with a pricing model that works for Nintendo to be able to push that. Otherwise, they just won't do it.
They'd probably sell it not at a loss, but they would probably give them a pretty good deal if they wanted to do that, because I'm sure Nintendo will be very stubborn otherwise.
Brand, I have a question for you. Before all this Nintendo talk puts you to sleep and you have to find a Pokemon. Do you think Game Pass at this point is sustainable? Do you think that Game Pass is making a profit? Or do you think all those naysayers and days of gloom are ahead for Game Pass?
I think when people talk about this, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, I could give you my opinion, but like I don't have Microsoft books. All we know is like, hey, Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer said, hey, service is sustainable. Don't worry about it. Let us worry about the financials of the whole situation. I would say they're probably making money now, but if you factor in like, have they turned a profit since the concept started in 2017? I would probably hazard a guess and say no. But that's sunk cost. Like that's the cost you needed to basically put in to get the service up and running. I know Jez has sources that say, he knows or he's been told that Game Pass is sustainable and it is making money. So I'm not worried about Microsoft's financials. I'm not worried about Netflix's financials or any of these companies' financials when they do certain things like this. Like the people that are worried about it are people that use it as like a scapegoat to try to tear down something that's good. It's like, oh, well, Game Pass is great now, but is it really making any money for Microsoft? It's like, well, number one, why do you care if it is making any money for Microsoft? In fact, some people would say they feel really good about Game Pass because it almost feels like you're stealing from Microsoft, that you're getting such good value from it that you're not paying as much as you should, and that you're literally robbing Microsoft. And that's a good feeling for a consumer, because a lot of places, a lot of things we pay for, we don't get that feeling. But it truly does feel like Game Pass. Like if you're someone that wanted Outriders and MLB, you're like, I'm robbing the bank here. I'm getting all this stuff for nothing, And if they add more titles in the future, it's going to look like pure daylight robbery. And it doesn't matter to me, or that if Microsoft is losing money on it or whatever. But I think they're doing pretty well. I think they have a plan in place. I think right now they're just in acquisition mode, which is why you see a lot of the smaller, they're doing like the deals, like the dollar deals and stuff. That'll go away at some point when they reach a certain number of subscribers. But yeah, I think they're doing fine. I wouldn't worry about it. And Game Pass rules.
Awesome. I mean, I like that part. Game Pass rules.
Game Pass rules.
It does.
What's even funnier, Rand, is when you think about it, is what we do know for a fact, or at least some of the stats that they've released, because we don't get to see the numbers, we don't get to see the books at all, but is that the robbers that are stealing from the bank are actually giving some of that money back because they actually enjoy buying the games. And we're some of the stats that they're throwing out there is that people on Game Pass actually do buy more games and do spend more money on DLC than the average consumer. So for all those people worried about well, everybody just gets their games for free and nobody buys anything anymore. And how's Microsoft going to sustain that? Those stats prove that they're wrong in the first place. And obviously EA is more than happy to have their games in there and for people to be buying, Ultimate Team and all that kind of stuff. And now we've seen 2K, put NBA in there. And obviously they must be happy that people are buying, like myself, I'm included in this, my team. So, that kind of stuff is always ignored at the end of the day when people talk about this. Like Rand said, it's for the people who want to concern troll. They don't want to have a serious discussion because, again, like Rand said, who cares? I don't care about Microsoft's money other than the fact I want them to stay in business. But, it's fun to talk about the business side of things, but at the end of the day, if they want to throw all this money at Game Pass and grow it and make it this huge deal, let them. That's what it's about. For how many times can you say that everybody wins when something is like this is created, right? Whether it's the devs, whether it's the publishers, whether it's Microsoft and Xbox, or whether it's us as consumers. Right now, everybody's really happy. Let's just enjoy it because we got more content than we know what to do with right now. And it's only the beginning. We know that there's more coming out. Go for it. I mean, I'm more than happy to allow them to spend all the money they want to try to get more people like myself to get into this service, this platform that they've now created that is Game Pass. More than happy that they want to do this and invest their time and money. So all about it.
And I do have a question before we get out of here, because I know we've been going on like an hour and a half, and I feel like that, Rand might turn into a tomato.
Yep, that's
Rand,
true.
do you have any thoughts on who Xbox might actually purchase, whether it be Konami, Capcom, Ubisoft?
I get asked this all the time, and it's acquisitions are very tricky. So it's tough to really these things can fall apart really quickly. So I know Microsoft is targeting companies. They have plans to acquire publishers. Not saying that they ever would continue, but there's a game plan out there that Microsoft has in place where it's like, we could acquire EA if we did these steps, right? Or stuff like that. I'm not saying that we'll ever acquire EA, but that contingency plan exists, and it exists for all the publishers and stuff like that. But it's really just hard to say who they could. You could definitely see why Xbox would be interested in Sega. PC development is strong, nostalgic reasons, Japanese support, that would make a lot of sense. There's independent creators out there, IO Interactive, Avalanche, Bungie, bring Bungie home, Phil, right? As people would say. And I know Xbox has talked to plenty of developers over the years, but getting someone to sign on that dotted line when you're signing away, maybe your life's work can be a little tricky for people. So acquisitions, they could fall apart really easily. So it's tough to say, who they're talking to because things fall apart. I will say, though, that I do expect there to be more, whether it's this year or next year. They definitely will acquire more studios and potentially more publishers and stuff. So they know they need content. They really want this Netflix of gaming thing to be a realistic possibility. They know they need more teams. They need more studios. They need more family-friendly titles. That's something that Phil's specifically called out as something that's missing. They need to really up their game on the PC. They view the PC as one of the biggest growth areas. And so you need more titles like Age of Empires 4, which, a PC-made game first and foremost. And which why Sega makes a lot of sense because they have a lot of great PC developments there, developers there. So you can kind of look at and see what Microsoft's strategy is and kind of see where maybe they would allocate a lot of their resources and spend a lot of money. Then there's the rumors of them buying Discord. I would not be shocked if they bought Discord, so they're willing to spend a lot of money. Microsoft is fully behind Xbox. Phil can pretty much get all the support he realistically needs. outside of like needing, hey, Satya, I need 80 billion to buy EA or something, right? And they'll continue to grow, but it's got to make sense first and foremost. Like Bethesda made sense because of the relationships and things like that. Like if I just don't see Microsoft going out there and buying somebody they really didn't have any previous relationships with. Like because you spend that type of money, you want to know if you're compatible. So you need to look at teams that Microsoft has relationships with, and if it actually makes sense for their business, right? So, but we'll see it happen in the future for sure.
Yeah, I think just to hit on that too, I think when you ask what question if you ask what business is Microsoft going to acquire next, you also have to ask like the relationship, as Rand was saying, but also like what have they acquired in the past and how does that fit within their future of the studios they already have. And so far it seems like they love acquiring like private companies. They love and it's a lot easier to acquire private companies. So you can put that on a checklist of, okay, what company are they going to buy, and is it a private company? Okay, and not to say they can't not buy a public company. It's just a lot easier to acquire a private company. So far, Obsidian, Bethesda is a privately based company. All these different companies that they have acquired within the last 5 years have been private. So Ubisoft is public. EA, they're public. So probably not those two, maybe. But yeah, you just figure out does it fit underneath Microsoft's umbrella? Right now it seems like their goal is Game Pass. Their goal is seems to be Japan. So if Sega is worth it, they are private or they are public. So if they are worth it, maybe Sega. Yeah, I don't know.
Did you hear the 3-bit nose smile in there the whole time, clowns?
You know,
3-bit nose.
I'm starting to get suspicious. 3-bit. I think.
What are some more private video game publishers that would be worth acquiring? Like actual publishers.
Valve is private. Just saying. Valve is a private company.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, Valve's private. I mean, they got the biggest one, Bethesda.
Right.
Yeah,
Bethesda was private. Most of the video game publishers are public. CD Projekt Red, they're public. I think Koch Media, Embracer's public. EA's public. Ubisoft's public. Sega's public. So's Capcom. It's a little bit more difficult when you try to buy a public entity. So that's why Microsoft, all the studios they basically bought are all private because they can keep discussions quiet. So,
well, some of these also I have like. Let's say like Konami or Sega, right? They're more than just video game company, right? Or like Sega has their like arcade business.
Yeah, but they spun those off though.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. So like, is that possible? I'm asking as just somebody asking a question because I don't know how this stuff works, right? Is it possible to acquire a portion of a company and it's not necessarily out there in the public forum until it gets revealed, right?
Well,
that's just a hypothetical. I don't know.
When you buy okay, so like stocks, right? When you're like buying stocks in companies, like you technically own a percentage of that company, like a very, very small percentage, like barely like 0.000 point, like whatever, like 1. Right. But within that, you also can vote on different decisions within the company.
Right.
So when you're buying a public company, the reason why it's a little bit harder is because you technically are not just talking to like one person, right? Like with Valve, you'd probably be talking to Gabe Newell or something. But when you're buying like a public company, you're talking to the different shareholders. So that's why it's different. Like that's why.
So if they say, okay, we want to sell off this division of our company, that has to go to everybody as a vote. Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
cool. Thank you. I'm educated now.
So, we're almost kind of like at the 2 hour mark, and I know sometimes outros can take a while. And I feel bad for Rand because I didn't tell him exactly how long the running time was. So, Rand, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been a long time. It's been just a pleasure talking with you again. I hope to do more podcasts with you again in the future. Like 2013 when we're always on shows off and on. It's always a blast talking to you, man. And I don't see you on Xbox anymore, probably because you have to ghost, I imagine. So,
I appear offline pretty much 24/7. So
yeah, I imagine you have to. So if you see me on, man, just hit me up. If my party's open, you're always welcome to hop in there and just hang out with us. But when you're not throwing deep dish pizza away or looking for the perfect calzone or turning into a Rand L tomato, as Jez would say, what are you up to and where can people find you?
Well, thanks for having me on, Four Guys, again. It was great hanging out with you clowns and Mav, PK, 3-Bit, and Pong Soul. I know me and Pong Soul played NBA 2K the other day. It was a lot of fun. So it's nice to get to talk to you guys. If people want to follow me, check out the content. YouTube.com/RandallThor19 is pretty much where everything is. Links to social media, Twitter, and stuff like that. Thanks for having me on, clowns, and we should do this again sometime.
Yeah,
you don't need to be a stranger. You haven't DM'd me in like years, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, what was it? You literally asked me an hour before Four Guys with Quarters if I could do the show. You're like, hey, can you do the show in an hour? And I'm like, I need more lead-in time than that, buddy. I need way more lead-in time than an hour.
That is a fact. I hit Rand up. I was like, yo, Rand, can you come on tonight? He's like, and I sent him a message on Xbox and everywhere else I could find him. And he responds like, I need more time. That's true. It kind of like Four Guys was going through a revamp. Rand, I don't know if you knew about that, but there was like a big revamp of Four Guys and 4G TV, and then had to deal with a lot of aftermath of my wife going through what she went through. So I was kind of like, I would say at least a good 8 months. It wasn't like I ghosted, but it was like I just didn't talk as much to people. And then when 4GQTV kind of came back with Mav and PK and 3-Bit came on, I started getting more out there again and just kind of getting busy doing what I love. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, Mav.
Yes, sir.
So besides,
sorry, I was lost on Twitter.
Besides the chat telling you that you had your hat backwards, which you knew already.
Come on now. All right, here we go.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
That better?
And that you're a diehard Eagles fan and ready to rematch me in Madden.
Oh.
Yeah, we know it's true. I mean, you
fighting words.
Yeah, no, he's the Eagles. Don't let him kid you. He's got like a big bird outfit in the closet somewhere.
Man, you gonna allow this slander? Holy cow!
The Eagles are like the worst. I'm sorry.
When you're not cheering on your favorite green team, where can people find you?
Oh man, I'll be here watching the NFL draft, watching my Dallas Cowboys pick in the draft soon. Not the Eagles. So, but besides that, guys, hey, this was a fun show. Pong, 3-Bit, PK, and Rand, man, awesome to get to have you on the show. And clowns, awesome job as always hosting us here on the channel. You've been doing amazing, and you have some more fun interviews lined up, I'm sure. So it's going to be a blast doing those as well. But guys, you can find me on Twitter at Fun Speculation. Also, tonight you can catch Fun Pop. It's our comic book, movies, TV show, pop culture podcast. It features 3-Bit and also Psychonauts, and that airs late tonight at 10:30 Eastern. So check that out. That's on the Fun Speculation YouTube channel. Also, Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Xbox Ultimate Podcast. And this week, we have none other than Dealer Gaming on the show. He has confirmed, so he will be there as our special guest. So you can catch the Magnificent 7 plus Dealer talking about all things Xbox. We'll probably be diving into some of this E3 stuff, and who knows what else, because it wasn't a big news week. We may talk about some of the Resident Evil stuff that we saw today, some of the indie games that were revealed the other day as well. So it's going to be a fun time. Check that out tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, as we're wrapping up, more people are coming in to the chat, which is kind of strange. So, PK, well, you're not... I wish I had the energy for your outros and your intros, man, because I'd want to say it just one time. I want to say the most electrifying man in all the land of YouTube and your energy. Where can people find you, man?
So definitely catch me here, 4 Guys and Quarters every week, Thursday. And I'll be hanging out with my GRG brothers Friday night, starting at 8:30 Eastern Central, 9:30. I mean, 8:30 Central and 9:30 Eastern. And definitely hit me up on the Dragon's Den on Saturday, hanging out with my big bro, 108 Dragons TV. We definitely have some serious talk and get it in. Definitely with Six Slayer. He's my tech brother over there from Mother from Another Land. So you want to hear some geeks and nerds talk? That's where we gonna be. But and 108 brings us back to the ground for sure.
Awesome. And I know 3-Bit has his mic muted.
No, I'm here.
Okay. So, you know, when you're not in, how do we say this? When you're not in famous videos about ponies and riding ponies by Mav, you know, a song by Mavuwine, which was a great song, by the way. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Fun Pop Tonight. I'm part of the Magnificent Seven. I'm gonna start using that because I tried to name all you guys every single show. It was a lot of us. Xbox Ultimate every Friday. I'm on Boom Show. I had to miss it because it was some crazy stuff happening, but I'm on Boom Show every Thursday at 12, and then I have my YouTube channel, The Video Games HT. My Twitter is the VGHD. So you guys can all find me on there. Next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, Mav is getting payback for that pony video. So it's going to be pretty great. It's got to be great. So check that out.
Wait, did you say this Friday or next Friday?
No, it has to be next. There's no way. I can't finish.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
Good.
way.
Good. I have time to prepare.
So yeah, that is me.
And Pong, man, your new avatar is fantastic, by the way. It's, you know, I grew up playing Pong too. I don't know if you knew that. But you probably had like the real basic Pong growing up. And I had a little bit more advanced paddles with my Pong. So where can people find you, man?
Oh man, so Pong Soul everywhere, obviously. Twitter, Xbox, and then you could find me. Let's start Friday nights, obviously Xbox Ultimate, with my brothers on here, Mav and 3-Bit, and along with Assassin Lupa, Psychonauts, Lady AF. Oh man, and then obviously Caitlin. We can't forget Caitlin. She's always on there, and she comes with the specialness, the fancy. So join us on Xbox Ultimate, and then after hours, you can catch everybody playing Master Chief Collection as well. And then on Saturday mornings, Steel Rain and myself are on Living Split Screen. That's our new show. Saturday mornings, we're gonna wake you up. It's an organic show. We just chalk. We don't have a whole big format laid out, but whatever comes up, comes up. But he and I are going to wake you up. So Living Split Screen. Split Screen is all one word. You can find us at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and then 3 p.m. UK time. So check us out there, Living Split Screen. myself and Steel Rain. Saturday nights is PTK Blam Show, The Shop, along with Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, and Staggerilla. And that starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central Time. So we're going to wrap up your Saturday night. Stop by. It's a quick show, just a little bit over an hour. Fun time. He's been doing it for a long time, and we really do have a good time there. So check us out there. And then Tuesdays, you can find me on the Xbox Factor podcast, the second Xbox Factor podcast for Mr. Boomstick over at Double Barrel Gaming, myself and Zemi Games, and that starts at 12 p.m. Eastern and 11 o'clock Central Time. And then this week too, I just want to give a quick shout out, Wandering Dutch, guys over at Midweek Mix Up. He's got a special show planned, which Mav and I were honored to be a part of, just a little tiny part of, but he's put together an awesome indie game showcase, and that's happening on Saturday this week, and it's going to be 3 p.m. Eastern, so 2 o'clock Central Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please, guys, drop by. It's a show. I think he's going to have a live chat going on and stuff, but it's going to be really cool. He's put together, like, I think he said, Mav, over 70 indie games, I think. Is that what it was?
At least 50. I don't remember the exact number, but there's also potentially some like indie devs making it like some stuff.
He's got some other big people from the community showing up as well. So
Lord Cognito, Clowns.
Yep.
Boom.
Also, man, who else was? Oh, Boom.
Boom.
Yep. Boom.
Yep.
And then we got Goat Force Gaming and
yep. So check that out on Saturday,
I know I'm
guys.
forgetting somebody.
There's like a ton. I don't even think he's announced everybody who's in that thing. So
yeah,
it's gonna be really cool though. So yeah, that's my outro. There you go.
Awesome. Well, to everybody in the chat, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it that you guys come by every week and make the show exciting. And again, big thank you to our special guest Randall Thor 19, aka Randall Capone. Somebody should make that shirt, by the way, because I will buy it. So anybody out there, send it to Rand so he can put it up on his shirt store, and I will buy it. Thank you, and see you guys next week.